Welcome to Classic Take, Season 2, Episode 49. The topic we'll discuss today is, will everybody become prophets when Moshiach will come? One of the prophecies about Moshiach is in the book Torah, the book of 12 prophets, in the book of Yoel, in chapter 3 in the beginning. It says that when Moshiach will come, Eshprech esruchi al kol basar, I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. V'nibu b'neichem u'b'noisechem, your sons and your daughters will prophesy. It says that the young will have visions, the elderly will also prophesy in their way. So this is one of the verses that speak about clearly, that indicate that there will be a great surge of prophecy when Mashiach will come. We also have another verse that says, which is slightly different, but it's still related. It says, V'nigla kvoid Hashem, the glory of Hashem will be revealed. V'ro chalbasa yachtav, ki pi Hashem diber, all flesh will see as one, that the mouth of Hashem has spoken, which basically means that godliness will be revealed to all, which is also a form of prophecy, as we'll soon discuss as we go along. Today, we do not have prophecy, definitely not the way it was before. However, during the first temple period, there were many prophets. From the prophecies that were recorded, there were 48 prophets, give or take, that officially the number that's given is 48, that were recorded for prosperity. But in truth, there were many, many more prophets. It's just that the prophets that we know of, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyahu, Isaiah, Yecheskel, all these prophets that we know of today, their prophecies were recorded because it was relevant for future generations as well. But in the olden days, a prophet was a holy person that people would turn to for advice and for personal questions. You have the story of Shmuel the prophet, that Shaul the king. How did Shaul meet Shmuel? Because Shmuel, he lost some donkeys, wanted to know where the donkeys were. So he went to Shmuel the prophet to find out where the donkeys were. The prophet had divine wisdom, divine knowledge. He would be able to get prophetic knowledge. So he asked him. Prophets weren't used exclusively for earth-shattering messages. They were used a lot for personal messages, for so on and so forth. So the prophets that we have recorded now are only a fraction of the prophets that existed years ago. However, our sages tell us that at the time of Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi, the three prophets who existed towards the beginning of the Second Temple era, prophecy has nostalgia, that the prophecy has, so to say, been taken away. Pascha, whatever exactly the word is, it stopped. Why did it stop? Why did it stop? So there's multiple levels here to understand, but just deal with a few simple explanations. There's a few explanations that are given. One explanation that's given is that in order for a prophet to give prophecy, he has to be in a happy state of mind. The Rambam explains in the laws of Yisei HaTorah, prophets, they used to play instruments, they used to meditate, they used to try to reach a happy state. They had to be a very holy spiritual person, somebody who's smart, who has full control of his natural tendencies, of his evil inclination. There's certain qualities that a prophet had to have, but he wasn't guaranteed prophecy. The only one that had a guarantee that he has prophecy whenever he wanted to was Moshe. Most other prophets, they would sit and meditate, and either God gave them the prophecy or he didn't give them the prophecy. But in order to get the prophecy, they had to be a proper receptacle. They had to be in a healthy frame of mind, a happy frame of mind. After the exile, so during the Second Temple era, we already didn't have a proper frame of mind. The exile was, there were still tribulations, there were still wars, there were different things going on. We never attained that peaceful state that the Jewish people had relatively at least during the First Temple era. So we are not proper vessels, so to say, receptacles for prophecy. Other explanations would explain that the Holy Ark, was hidden away during the end of the First Temple era, and prophecy emanated spiritually through the presence of the Ark in an open way once it was hidden away. So the power of prophecy, the power of godly communication, interaction with people declined until it completely ceased the beginning of the Second Temple era, when the open miracles that the Jewish people experienced during the First Temple era also ceased. So whatever might be at some point in history, the spiritual energy of prophecy has been taken away. The Rebbe explains it doesn't mean it doesn't exist at all. There were some individuals historically that had very great prophetic insight, but it's in its most complete form, and particularly that it should be manifest in an abundant way that many people could be able to become could be able to become prophets. That was taken away at some point later in history. Now, when Mashiach comes, without getting into a whole elaborate discussion about prophecy throughout the ages, when Mashiach comes, prophecy will return. Not only will return, as I mentioned before, the verse says that everybody will be prophets. Your sons, your daughters, everybody will become prophets. The Rambam actually writes that he has a tradition. He writes in his letter, he got a statement when he has a tradition that prophecy will return at a certain year the Rambam gave, which was close to his lifetime. And about 800, whatever, a little less than 800 years ago. And around that time, there were great sages that were known for their prophetic insights. The Rambam wrote that the return of prophecy would be one of the forerunners of the coming of Mashiach. We did not merit the coming of Mashiach at that time, but we did see in some degree, in some small window of history, that there was a certain return of prophecy. Later generations also, we had the Baal Shem Tov, we had great Chassidic masters who were known for their great prophetic abilities. But either way, when Mashiach will come, prophecy will be available for all. Now, how will that be? And what will be unique about the prophetic abilities of the future? So the answer is that first of all, one explanation is the torments of exile, the suffering of exile refined the Jewish people to the extent that they will all be able to have the gift of prophecy when Mashiach comes. As I mentioned before, there are certain qualifications that a prophet needs to have. He needs to be knowledgeable, very smart. He needs to be a giber, strong, which doesn't mean here physical strength, but it means emotional strength, spiritual strength. He controls his inclination. And he has to be rich. There's other qualities. He has to be humble. There's certain very specific qualities. When Mashiach comes, everybody in one instant will have all these qualities. So one answer is that the suffering of exile has refined the Jewish people to the extent, collectively, refine the Jewish people collectively to the extent that they will merit to become prophets when Mashiach will come. There is, however, a much deeper point over here, which is that there's a fundamental difference between the prophecy of the future and the prophecy of the past. The prophecy of the past, like I mentioned before, there were certain qualifications that were necessary. Even when those qualifications were there, not necessarily did the person merit prophecy. The only one that had a guarantee that whenever he wanted prophecy, he would get it was Moshe Rabbeinu. All other prophets, sometimes they got it, sometimes they didn't get it. You could have a prophet that prophesies once in his life, or he prophesies for many years, and then it stopped. Furthermore, prophecy was seen as something unique. It wasn't a normal thing. It wasn't, you had to work on it. You had to be more spiritually in tune more than other people. You had to meditate, and you had to reach a certain state of spiritual perfection, and then you were able to receive prophecy. When the prophet received his prophecy, his body would tremble. The verses speak about in the book of Daniel, other places, the prophet would lose himself. His body would not be able, he would tremble, go into a trance. His body, his cognitive functions would not be able to handle the prophecy. The prophecy was a communication from a higher level, and his cognitive functions would stop working during that time because he went into a different mode of existence. He was getting a message from a higher place. And the prophecy wasn't always so clear. Sometimes it was clearer than others, etc., etc. I mean, this concept are discussed a lot in various sources that speak about the concept of prophecy. When Mashiach will come, it doesn't say there's going to be any conditions. It doesn't say a person will have to be smart. It won't have to be wise. He won't have to be a giber, somebody that's overcame his evil inclination. Rather, what it means is that because when Mashiach will come, godliness will be revealed within the world. Godliness will become revealed within the world to the extent that the same way it's simple for us. We look around at the world. We see trees, we see grass, we see things. When Mashiach will come, the godliness in creation will become openly revealed. So, as the verse says, as I mentioned before, it says that that the glory of Hashem will be revealed, and all flesh will see that God's mouth has spoken. The sages don't say, the verse doesn't say that our minds will see. It says, V'rochol basar, flesh will see, the physical eye, the physical entity of the world will be a conduit for godliness. So it'll be a normal thing. It won't be something special. Oh, you're a prophet, you reached a degree in spirituality, a degree in prophecy. No, it will be like a natural thing. The same way when a person walks into the street and he sees trees, he sees grasses. There's nothing special about it. It didn't have to have any special qualifications to see it. Why? Because this is just nature. This is just what's out there. Similarly, when Mashiach will come, the godliness will be revealed in a clear, open way, to the extent that it will be completely natural. It won't be considered even a novelty. We won't take this as a novelty that having prophecy. It will be as a normal thing. The Rebbe explained this a little bit more. The Rebbe says that we find that when the Jewish people entered the temple, our sages tell us that there were 10 miracles that the Jewish people experienced when they went to the temple. Primarily during the first temple era, sometimes also during the second temple era. And there was when a Jew went into the temple, he experienced godliness. He was able to walk in. Our sages say, same way he came to be seen, he also saw. A Jew was able to perceive godliness. He walked into the temple, he felt a different aura. He naturally was now in tune with godliness. He didn't have to do anything about it. Just walking into there, particularly during the first temple era, during the higher times of spiritual revelation, it was like a natural thing. You walked into there, you were in a different world. You didn't have to be smart, wise, a gibor, somebody that overcame his evil inclination. It was a natural thing, but nevertheless, was it really 100% natural? No. Why? Because the second he walked out of the temple, reality hit him again. There were two realities. There was a reality that was in the temple. There was a reality that was outside the temple. When Mashiach will come, godliness will be revealed for all. It will be revealed as a most straightforward thing. You'll see how nature is really one with godliness. It won't be two separate things. So therefore, it won't be that, you're reaching an elevated state of consciousness, you're getting a prophetic message. No, this is as simple as nature. In the terminology of Chassidus, we use the term alakus b'pshitas. It's a straightforward existence. As you see, it will be godliness. Okay, now all the above sounds beautiful and nice, and maybe a lot of people are looking forward to becoming prophets. But ultimately, what does it mean for us right now? Ultimately, right now we are not at the stage of prophecy, and even maybe some great people have certain prophetic abilities, but most of us do not. So what does it mean to us? So one idea there's 2 points over here. One point is, the reason why prophecy is so crucial is because it shows how God communicates with the world. He permeates our understanding. While we don't have yet that ability to prophesize, but we do have the ability to learn, to understand, to have godliness permeate our brain as much as we could. Furthermore, listen to the prophets. We have prophecies, that are recorded until Moshiach comes, that teach us how to live our lives. The Torah, Moshe Rabbeinu, these are prophetic teachings. Furthermore, we have the leaders of the generation. As the Rebbe said, that in our generation, the tzaddik of the generation also has a certain ability to prophesize, to see things from a deeper perspective, and they give us directives. The Rebbe told us Moshiach is coming. He was able to see, besides the fact that our sages give us signs, to be able to perceive that we're holding by the threshold of redemption. But the Rebbe says also prophetically, the tzaddikim, the great leaders of the past ages, and the Rebbe, the previous Rebbe, have told us that Mashiach is coming. Listen to the messages that we have from those that do have prophetic insight, and follow them. And this is a way of preparing ourselves for the time when prophecy will become relevant for all. May we merit to have it speedily in our days. Amen.